Welcome to the Man of Recaps. We're talking Daredevil Season 1. Daredevil is a blind superhero. He was in a car accident as a kid, but the toxic chemicals gave him super other senses, so he can hear well enough to see, a lot like a bat. Unfortunately, Batman was taken, so here we are. By day, he's Matt Murdock, attorney at law, because justice is blind, get it? He's got his best friend and partner, Foggy Nelson, who's his goofy sidekick. One day, Karen Page wakes up in her apartment covered in this guy's blood with a knife in her hand. Pretty open and shut case, but Nelson and Murdock go to check it out, and she's like, I have no idea. I think I was drugged and I'm being set up. And because he's got super hearing, he knows that she's telling the truth. So they take the case. She was working for this big company called Union Allied, and she accidentally discovered evidence that they were doing crime and stuff. So that's why she thinks they're trying to kill her. She goes to stay at Matt's apartment for a while and just changes right in front of him. You know, one of the perks of being blind, but not really blind. That night, she sneaks back to her apartment to grab the USB drive that she had with all the data on it. But a guy's there to try to kill her. Oh no! Luckily, Daredevil shows up and he's like, boom, bam, kicking and punching. The fight spills out onto the street, and then Daredevil kicks this guy in the face. He leaves him on City Hall with the evidence, so boom, it's in the paper, scandal exposed, good guys win, and Karen gets a job there as Nelson Murdock's assistant. Cool. But the bad guys aren't going to roll over that easily. There's a whole gang of them. There's the two Russian brothers, and there's the white accountant guy, and there's the old Chinese lady, and then there's the mysterious Japanese dude, and then the suit guy comes up. He's like, hey, I represent the boss of all of you, but he's too cool to come. The Russians kidnap another kid for their human trafficking ring, but the next episode starts with Daredevil bleeding out in a dumpster. Luckily, he's found by Claire Temple. She's a nurse. She takes him up to her apartment to fix him up a bit, and she's like, look, this was a one-time thing. He's like, actually, you're going to be a main character in this series. This is your life now. The bad guys come looking for them, and he gets away, but Daredevil grabs the fire extinguisher and does an awesome drop, nails the guy, tie him up on the roof, and interrogate him about where the kid is, and so he finally tells him, then he throws him off the roof. Oh no, he killed some guy. No, he lived, is in the dumpster. I'm telling you, he's exactly like Batman. He goes to where they've got the kid, and then it's time for the famous one-take hallway fight. Yeah, the camera doesn't move, and he beats up all these guys. This is what made the show famous, and it's cool because he gets really tired, fighting all these dudes. He doesn't have super strength. He's just a guy who's pretty good at punching people, and he saves the kid, so job well done. Later, this other gangster is bowling, and this guy comes up like, hey, can I bowl with you? Just kidding, I'm an assassin here to kill you. Yeah, but he manages to get the gun out, so he has to bash his head in with a bowling ball, but the cops pick him up, so suit guy comes to Nelson and Murdock. He's like, hey, I represent a really big company, and we're willing to pay you a bunch of money to represent our client. And it's like, well, we only represent good guys. He's like, no, he's a good guy, but within 5 seconds of talking to him, it's very obvious that he's a professional assassin. But Matt wants to find out who his employers are, so he decides to take the case. The boys are doing some actual lawyering, but Matt uses his super hearing to hear that one of the jurors, his heart rate elevated because she's being blackmailed to vote not guilty by this guy, so he beats him up. He's like, no, you're going to stop that, and then she gets off the jury, but then he finds out that even all more of the jury is all elevated heart rate, so the guy gets not guilty. So Daredevil steps in and he beats this guy up for a bit. He's like, who do you work for? And he's like, Wilson Fisk. And then he's like, no, that's the one rule, you're not allowed to say his name. Oh, he kills himself right in front of him. How scary is this Wilson Fisk guy? Daredevil is continuing to interrupt the Russians' business, so Suit Guy talks to them. He's like, handle this or Mr. Fisk will have to. So they find the guy who Daredevil threw off the roof. He's in a coma, but they give him the super caffeine shot, and he's like, oh man, I'm awake. He gives them Claire's apartment, and then dies. So they bust in and kidnap Claire, bring her to the garage. They're like, tell us everything you know about Daredevil. They're still calling him the Man in Black, though, at this point. But all the lights go off, and Daredevil, boom, he comes in, he beats them all up, and he saves Claire. It's his time to heal her. Wait, are these guys gonna kiss? Oh yeah, they do. The Russian brothers get back to the garage. They're like, the Man in Black did all this? Inconceivable. So this is the big shadowy crime boss, Wilson Fisk. He just met this hot art dealer, Vanessa. He takes her out on a first date. He's got this funny way of talking. He's like, New York is my home, and I'll do anything to save it. But their date is interrupted by one of the Russian brothers comes. He's like, hey, we need help taking down the Man in Black. And Vanessa's like, wait, are you some sort of mob boss? And he's like, yes, I am. And she's like, okay, no first kiss for you. That makes him super pissed, so he takes it out on the Russian brother and bashes his head in with his car. So he's the reserved businessman type, but he's also the brutally violent type too. Nelson and Murdock have a new case. It's this old Spanish woman. She's trying to be forced out of her apartment by the landlord. He's shutting off the power, breaking the walls and stuff. So Foggy goes down to the landlord's attorney where his super hot ex-girlfriend works. And he's like, man, I can't wait to go down on you. I can't wait to take you down. Matt goes down to the police station to pick up some files or something, but he uses his super hearing to hear a Russian being interrogated, and he's like, yes, our boss is Wilson Fisk, and the cop's like, shouldn't have said his name. Boom, takes him down. So Fisk has got who knows how many police officers in his pocket. Vanessa comes back for a second date with Fisk, who's reserved the entire restaurant for them. He's like, does it bother you that I'm a crime boss? And she's like, I don't know, not really. So they are in love. So the Russians are gearing up for war, but first they get a delivery from this blind heroin delivery guy. See, that's Madame Gao's thing. She's the old Chinese woman, and Fisk talked with her to help her take down the Russians. So this blind delivery guy is actually carrying a bomb. Boom! Exploded! And they do it all across the city at the same time, so they just wiped out the Russians. The Russian brother survived, though, but Daredevil finds him, and they have a little fight until the cops come. Daredevil surrenders, but then the cops are working for Fisk. They're going to kill the Russians, so Daredevil will have to fight the cops to save the Russian gangster. He takes him to this warehouse, but pretty soon the cops have him surrounded, and Fisk gives the order to start sniping cops, starting with the dirty one because he's a liability now, and with the footage of him beating up cops, this whole thing and the explosions get blamed on the devil of Hell's Kitchen. Daredevil gets the accountant's name from the Russian, and he pays him a visit, but he gets distracted by something, and so he gets tased. What is it? It's a blind guy. Oh, it's his old man sensei, Stick. See, Matt's dad was a boxer, and the gangsters paid him to take a fall one day, but he didn't, so they killed him. Matt was dealing with all his super hearing and stuff. It was very uncomfortable, so Stick finds him, and he's also blind, and he teaches him how to hear well. He also teaches him how to fight with the old, like, I'm just gonna hit you repeatedly method. So Stick's like, hey Matt, I need your help with something. The Japanese are importing a secret weapon called the Black Sky. It's coming in the docks tonight. A mysterious Japanese guy, Nobu, is the man. So these two sneak down there and do the whole ninja thing, but the weapon, the Black Sky, is just some kid. What? Stick is just ready to shoot him with an arrow, but Matt's like, no, don't kill kids, so he deflects it. Matt's like, what the hell was that? And Stick explains it's part of an ancient shadow war between good and evil. They fight right now. Matt's like, I don't have time for this, I'm dealing with Fisk. And Stick's like, yeah, you know what, you're right, I'll be back next season when this is the main plot. Losing the Black Sky pisses off Nobu and Madame Gao as well, so Fisk does an epic table flip. Then the dirty cop regains consciousness, and Fisk goes to his old partner and best friend and is like, hey, are you the type of person that would kill your partner and best friend for a bunch of money? And he's like, I guess I am. So he goes to visit his partner and brings him the meatball sub of death. He injects him with it, but just then Daredevil comes up. He's like, look, you've already been injected, you're dying anyway, just tell me everything you know about Fisk. Karen meets with Van Urich, a reporter. She's like, hey, you want to unravel a corporate corruption murder scandal? And he's like, yeah, that's what I love to do. One day she's attacked by some thugs, but Foggy comes in to save the day, so she brings him on the mystery, and they're like, oh, we just don't know who's at the top. So Daredevil pays a visit to Ben, and he doesn't have any proof to get Fisk arrested, but he has enough to write a good expose article since he hates people saying his name. But just then, Fisk goes on live TV and exposes himself. He comes across as a really good guy, and he's like, my name is Wilson Fisk. So the article's totally pointless, and Daredevil is pissed. Now Nobu's main goal is to get the apartment building that they're trying to kick the old Spanish woman out of, and because she refuses to leave, they have her killed by a junkie. They make it look like a mugging. Daredevil tracks down the junkie. He finds Madame Gao's question mark heroin. He gets the information out of him, goes to a warehouse where there's nobody except Nobu dressed as a literal ninja. Daredevil's like, that's a little cheesy, don't you think? But there's nothing cheesy about Nobu's sharp twirly weapon, because he's all like, boom, cut, and ooh, cut again, and Daredevil's getting all cut up and totally beaten. But then he manages to deflect this into the light, and there was gasoline on the floor from the barrel, so boom, he sparks him up, and Nobu burns alive. Ouch. But just then Fisk shows up, and he's like, pity. I hoped you and Nobu would kill each other. And Daredevil's like, I'm gonna punch you in the face. I'm gonna kill you right now, man. But Fisk is like, yo, I am a big, strong dude, and you're all cut up right now. He tries to cut Fisk, but he's wearing like armor suit. What? That's cool. Anyway, he beats up Daredevil. He's like, I'm done with him. You guys just shoot him. But he manages to escape out the window down into the river. He makes it back to his apartment where Foggy happens to be. So Foggy learns that his best friend Matt is Daredevil. And after this, Foggy becomes extremely annoying because the only thing he ever says is you should stop being Daredevil because it's dangerous and stuff. Meanwhile, Fisk is holding a big fundraiser. He's not like running for an office officially, but he's like clearly going to. And so Vanessa has some champagne, but people start dying, and it's like, no, the champagne, it was poisoned, Vanessa. So she manages to survive. He gets to the hospital, but he's just like, oh, super sad. The gang is still researching Fisk, and Karen goes to a nursing home upstate where she tracks down Fisk's mother, and she's a little bit senile, but she does tell them the story of how when Fisk was a kid, his dad was beating him up, and so Fisk took a hammer and killed him. He killed his dad. So that's pretty big news. Fisk's assistant gets a call from the nursing home about the visitor to Fisk's mom, so he manages to track down Karen, and he grabs her. He's like, well, I'm gonna kill you probably, but he gets distracted by a phone call, so she grabs the gun and she gets him, and he's like, oh, you wouldn't shoot me. She's like, actually, yeah, I would. I have no qualms. I'm gonna shoot you multiple times right in the chest. How's that? Fisk is super sad again because this wasn't just his assistant, it was his best and only friend. So he talks to his mom. She's too senile to remember anything though, but when Ben tries to print the article, Fisk gets word of it, and he goes to his apartment, and he's like, you want to see my mother? And he kills him with his his bare hands. Yeah, you don't mess with the dude's mom. Daredevil's now working on shutting down Madame Gao's heroin operation. He beats up some guards and he finds Madame Gao. He's like, you're going down. She's like, bitch, please, I'm Madame Gao. She meets with the accountant who reveals it was these two that tried to poison Vanessa because she was making Fisk all weak and distracted. Luckily, Vanessa makes a full recovery, but one day Fisk realizes the accountant dude's been stealing some money from him, and he's like, well, I'm gonna kill you for stealing money. He's like, actually, no, I have an ace in my hole. The partner that you had killed the other corrupt cop, I have him locked away somewhere, and if I don't check in every 24 hours, he goes public with all the stuff on you. So now that I'm untouchable, I may as well tell you I tried to kill Vanessa. Oh, shouldn't have said that. Fisk decides to just kill him anyway, and he's like, everyone, go find that cop before he reveals us. Luckily, Matt uses his super hearing to hear that, so when he got him down at the warehouse, all the cops show up. Daredevil shows up too, beats up the corrupt cops, and he's like, hey, you're coming with me. You're gonna turn yourself in and spill all the beans on Fisk. So he does that, gets all the corrupt cops arrested, and they're coming for Fisk too, but he last minute proposes to Vanessa, and she's like, yes, I do. So as they take him to jail, she goes off on a helicopter to who knows where. So Fisk is going to jail, and the good guys won. The end. Just kidding, actually, Fisk's convoy gets stopped by a paramilitary group that he hired, and they kill all the cops and bust him out of there. Jumping back a bit, after his fight with Nobu, Daredevil was all cut up, so he decided he needs to get some of that armor Fisk had. He finds his armor suit guy, and he's like, turns out he's only working for him because he's got his girlfriend kidnapped or whatever, so he's like, look, I'll save her if you make me a super suit. So he uses his super hearing to find Fisk, who's moved into this other truck. So Daredevil comes in, boom, crashes the truck. Fisk comes out, and he's like, yeah, how do you like me now? I got an awesome super suit with like devil horns and stuff. A little on the nose, but whatever, it looks badass. So these two have their final fist fight in the alley, and at the end Fisk is like, you can't kill me because you're a good guy with your Christian guilt, and Daredevil's like, oh, I don't know, I might have to be the devil, but he just punches him really hard and Fisk survives, so he goes to jail, and the good guys won, hooray! He officially gets his name Daredevil, and that's how season 1 comes to an end.